USA Today published an exclusive investigation that they say shows that various Trump organizations have a history of not paying small businesses and individuals in full for their services. The story, parts of which NBC News' Hallie Jackson was able to confirm, was uncovered after reviewing nearly 4,000 lawsuits from the past 3 decades. When asked about the allegation, campaign spokesperson Hope Hicks directed NBC to comments Donald Trump made earlier to the paper. He defended the tactics, saying, quote, "Let's say that they do a job that's not good, or a job that they didn't finish, or a job that was way late. I'll deduct from their contract. Absolutely. And that's what the country should be doing." I'm joined now by USA Today investigative journalist Steve Riley, who reported this story. So, Steve, thanks for joining us. Take us through the basics here. Small businesses, individuals. Give us an example of somebody you're reporting on here. What did they do for Trump, for his organization? What did they get in return?
Well, thanks for having me. One example that we looked at is a cabinetry business that was based out of the Philadelphia area. Went to work for the Trump company in the 1980s at the casino they were building in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And the story of the person we talked to was that the Trump company failed to pay the last payment. It was about $83,000 on that contract. And that was damaging to, obviously, that small business of about 20 employees at the time, and eventually they went bankrupt.
Was there an explanation from Trump? I mean, I'm assuming the company spent a lot of time trying to collect it. What were they hearing back?
Well, what's interesting, the small business person said Mr. Trump told them he's not going to make the final payment. However, they're welcome to come and do work in the future for future Trump projects. And so that's inconsistent with Mr. Trump's statement when I spoke with him for this article, that he would only make payments, only skip on payments if the work was late or deficient in some way.
He put so many good contractors out of business.
I don't care if he's Donald Trump or Donald Duck. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and I have to stand up for myself.
Donald Trump had basically decided what subcontractors would work in Atlantic City and which ones would not.
They are the voices skeptical of Donald Trump and his promises of prosperity.
If you went against him, he simply put a list out and said these are bad guys and everybody else is a good guy.
And you guys were on that list?
We were on the list.
And did you ever get work in Atlantic City again?
Never.
The 3 small business owners we just heard from say their contracts with Trump initially looked promising, but in the end, the deals turned disastrous.
It was one of those things, it's like, it's Donald Trump. You know, what could go wrong?
Stephen Jenkins and his sister Beth Rosser are second-generation owners of Triad Building Specialties, a business built by their father Forrest. When Trump's Taj Mahal began construction, Triad won the bid to install every toilet partition inside the casino's bathrooms. It was the largest contract their family business had ever landed.
We bill $150,000 a month. That's a really good month for us. And this was almost $300,000 in one contract. Everyone was, it was a big job. It was great.
But as Triad's workers wrapped up the project, talk started swirling that contractors weren't getting paid. When the Taj Mahal filed for bankruptcy in 1991, Triad was left with this $231,000 claim in court. They say they ended up with a payout of just $70,000.
It's hard for me to talk about it, but he wanted all 4 of us to work.
Jenkins gets emotional when he remembers how their father struggled to keep the business standing.
He was distraught. It was, he's watching something that he built his whole life start to slip through his fingers.
A generous loan, they say, saved the Pennsylvania company.
He didn't go to a bank for the loan. He borrowed it off of a friend.
I respect a lot about him. I think he has the capacity to take the very complicated and simplify it, which I think is one of the hallmarks of a good CEO. So I think he has that ability. On the other hand, I also think that he is vindictive, nasty, and think that his words or actions have no repercussions.
Nat Hyman spent years in litigation with Trump. He respects Trump's shrewd business tactics, but harbors resentment at what it cost his startup costume jewelry business. Letters show Trump tried to cut short Hyman's kiosk lease inside Trump Tower in Manhattan, blaming the poor quality of the merchandise. Hyman sued Trump amid various lease disputes, and he says the real estate mogul's team buried him in legal paperwork and fees for years.
He was hoping that simply by sending me a letter and the force of being Donald Trump, that a 20-something-year-old would roll over and say, go ahead, I'm not going to fight you, you're Donald Trump. He was wrong. I think I spent over $1 million in litigation with him. The bottom line was I would have been much happier, Jess, if he would have left me alone and simply left me to do my business. To him, it was sport. And to me, it was my life.
Paul Friel scoffs at Trump's words. The Philadelphia cabinetry company founded by his grandfather was forced to file for bankruptcy, he contends, because of Trump's retaliatory tactics.
We had already worked for 3 GCs, and every single one of them lived up to their word until Donald Trump came to Atlantic City. He was the first one that told a bunch of small contractors, I don't think I'm going to pay you any more money. And if you don't like it, you can sue me.
Friel says his father did try to recoup the $84,000 Trump owed the company for building bases to these Trump Plaza slot machines and the hotel's registration desks and bars. The elder Friel eventually gave up, but Trump seemed to hold a grudge. Friel says he believes his father's company was blocked from working on any future Atlantic City casino projects.
I think it surprised him the most that Donald Trump had blackballed him, even though we had an excellent name in Atlantic City. We had already worked in 4 of the first 4 casinos. That he had the ability to tell people, you don't want this company to work for you.
Now, Friel says he's speaking out to honor his dead father.
He would say, Paul, do this for us, because I was the one son involved in the business. He would say, Paul, do this. Let the country know what kind of man this is.
And you're doing that.
And I'm doing it.
I'm kind of curious here. Are you finding that this is a series of sort of events where his company turned to their vendors and say, look, you guys didn't get the job done. You didn't deliver us what you promised you would. We're not happy. Therefore, we're not going to pay. Or is this just blanket, not payment, no explanation? It's sort of just a strategy.
The allegations that we looked at, and you mentioned we looked at about 3,500 lawsuits in total involving Mr. Trump as a plaintiff or a defendant or one of his companies. So the subset of lawsuits and other documents in which it's alleged the Trump companies failed to make proper payment alleged that the contractors and employees did the work they were contracted to do and did it according to whatever agreement was in place and were not paid fairly for the work.
All right, Steve Riley from the USA Today. It's an interesting story. Thanks for joining us.